Hey, this is Russ Payton with Role-Playing Public Radio. This is RPPR episode 182, one-page games, or one-page-ish games. They're not strictly just one page, but, you know, brochure-sized, very, very small games that are becoming increasingly popular. And so we're going to be talking about them today with Birk and Baz. How you doing, both of you?
Hi.
Obviously, Birk is my co-host for Night Clerk Radio, and Baz is a friend of the podcast who recently ran a great game of Delta Green for us, Eldritch America Spearfinger, with more scenarios to come in the future, hopefully.
Hopefully.
And so they'll talk a little bit about what they're up to with their respective stuff. But first, some RPPR news. You may have noticed this episode is a bit delayed. It's been a little more than a month since our last episode because, just other projects have sort of taken precedence. But also, I've realized I don't want to just crank out RPPR episodes just because it's a month. I want to have a good idea for them. I mean, RPPR Actual Play is still very much going to be a weekly podcast. And After Hours will be put out every month on our Patreon. In fact, we're doing some really cool stuff by going in depth with the remake of the Inferno, Dante's Inferno, Judges Guild module. But I just when I have a good idea, we'll do RPPR episodes. I'll try to keep it monthly, but I don't want to just put out a episode just because I want to make these a little better. And I've also started work on Night Clerk as a zine. I'm making our Call of Cthulhu one-shot, the Night Clerk, into a standalone system-free horror scenario that I'll put out as a zine. And so writing that will take some time. Let's see, another RPPR news. We're also doing live streams every week on the RPPR Patreon Discord, and I've recently resolved a technical problem with the audio. So the audio and video quality is a lot better than it has been if you tried it out earlier last year. So we're watching some really fun stuff, and including RPPR cast members commentating on weird things I find on YouTube, such as Tahir and Sot, which Verk is big fan of the engineering projects of Tahir and Sot. And this is entirely live stream, will not be recorded. So we're also going to always do them on Sundays, although the exact time will vary a little bit from early in the afternoon into the evening, so people from different time zones can check those out. So sign up for the RPPR Patreon. It's only $2 a month to get on the Discord and get access to After Hours and get access to our live streams. So, but we have a lot of fun with these. And also, just another bit of news. You may have noticed on RPPR Actual Play, I did sort of break the order. I did skip a week on the podcast because it was supposed to post it on New Year's Eve, and I forgot about it because, New Year's, I was celebrating the end of 2020, although 2021 hasn't really let up, has it? But anyway, so you're going to have two Blades in the Dark episodes back to back. Episode 5 episode 4 has just been posted as the time of this recording. Episode 5 will go up next week, and then we'll go back into our regular schedule. So and also, if you're a Patreon, I did encode all of our Patreon games as MP3s, so you can download over 147 games that I and other members of the RPPR cast have run with patrons. So those games are already available to listen to on YouTube. But if you want to download them as MP3s, I have a link to an archive with all of them. So, and again, for those of you who are patrons, thank you so much for supporting RPPR on Patreon. It keeps the dream alive. It keeps our work going. And it literally means the world to me because, Baz, what's up with you stream on Twitch and you're doing some fun stuff.
I do. I stream Future Wolfington and Twitch. Having a lot of fun. Shout out to the Wolf Pack, all my fans and family. Love them. Yep, doing that. I didn't do much streaming this week, but I'm trying to do at least 3 days a week during the week, like weekdays, and then occasionally do weekend stuff. And that's what we've been doing.
Well, you've added some new community features to the Wolf
We
Pack.
did,
Yeah.
yes. For members that have joined the Discord, we have a Minecraft server up now, and we've been playing Minecraft together. It's a little bit of nostalgia playing over a decade old game, but
So sort of an unofficial RPPR Minecraft server because Birk and I are also playing on it and adding some things to it. Mostly Birk and you, as
I built a giant house today. So yeah,
Nice.
But Birk has put in some fucking work the past couple days.
Mm-hmm. So if you're a Minecraft fan, jump onto Baz's stream to get the Discord link, and then you can find out how to get onto the Minecraft realm. So,
unfortunately, realms are limited to a 10-person, so it is first come. Whoever's on is on.
Yeah,
but we're not that busy. We're not that big of a community. So
yeah, that's 10 at a time. Yeah, it's 10 at a time. Yeah, so like. And I haven't
never seen more than 4 or 5.
Yeah.
True. Yeah.
So there's room for growth. So yeah, if you're a big Minecraft fan, and if you see, I'm Clockwork Joe. If you see me, if I'm on the server, so and also I am on the Wolfpack Discord server, so you can say hi to me there, and Baz, of course, and Birk. But Birk, as my esteemed co-host on Night Cleric Radio, What episode out of the ones we've done recently have you been most hype about?
Man, I didn't want to listen to the music, but I actually really liked the holiday episode. We did an episode on Christmas Mallsoft, basically. The moral of the story is that Vaporwave can't save Christmas music from being dog shit, but it tries its best, and it still gives you a lot to talk about. But people really been liking the Unsolved Mysteries episode. Gotten some good feedback on that, and we... I don't know when this is releasing, but our most recent episode will be probably about Yig, which is Cryo Chamber's new Lovecraftian compilation that they do every year, which is also really great. It was a lot of fun to talk about. Yeah,
it was. Unsolved Mysteries, I did learn traumatize an entire generation of children.
Me.
Yep. From that scary ass theme song, but there's a lot more
fucking song.
But we dove into someone released 2 albums worth of not just the theme song but incidental music from it. And we learned about the history of the production of this music, and it was. If you remember Unsolved Mysteries, or if you're curious, give that episode a listen. And Yig is a well, not a banger, but it's I don't know what the term to
it's
describe.
Not a banger, but it is very good.
Yeah, it is very good. You can't really have dark ambient and banger don't really belong in the same sentence because it's not
ambient bangers.
So so we got a lot of cool stuff cooking for y'all.
Well, speaking of Night Clerk Radio, I had something I wanted to mention, and I forgot to tell you guys about this, but there is the effects of your podcast and the music you guys cover has bled over into my stream.
Yeah,
because I have a starting soon screen that's an abandoned mall with some Mallsoft playing in the background.
Hell yeah!
At Ross's suggestion, and someone tweeted at me the other day, and she was like, this fan of mine named Callie, she's like, you're just starting or about to start screen is fucking haunting. And I have to make sure I don't catch it. I have to make sure I catch you late in your stream. Otherwise I'll have nightmares.
Oh no.
Yeah. But I was like, well, thank Ross and Birk and Night Clerk Radio for that, because I would never put that shit on there were it not for them.
Oh no. I'm sorry, or you're welcome. I'm not sure which
you're
is more
welcome.
appropriate. Yeah,
I'm so happy. It made me very happy.
Yeah, to reach out and really make an impact in your fans' life. Yeah, we'll go with that. We'll go with the glasses half full. In that case. So, on that cheerful note, we should dive into the topic of this episode, which is, of course, I'm calling them one-page games, but they're not, strictly speaking, always one page. They might be a double page. They might be 2 pages, but they're very, very short games. And these have always been around in the RPG scene. Well, not always, but like from pretty early on. Like you could find ones back in the 80s, like Twerps, which is like 1987. these very, very short games, role-playing games, and but they become very, very popular in the last few years. And the reason I thought of this episode idea is because a couple months ago, Baz, you're in a game that I ran called this is called Overarms.
God, was it a couple months ago already?
I think it was November.
Man,
yeah, time is weird.
Time sucks.
Time is a flat circle. It might have been December, but I'm pretty sure it was November. I mean, I'm not going to check. I have timestamp files that would tell me when we recorded, but why would I check those?
Work.
Yeah, exactly. Why indeed. And after that episode, because your character was based on, tell us a bit about your character in that game and the game you decided that came out of playing Overarms.
So in Overarms, my character was pretty much ripped directly from the manga, anime, Initial D, the main character. Oh shit, I forgot his name.
Well, we all know the Initial D, like the drift racing.
Takuma Fujiwara, yeah.
Yeah.
And so his whole thing was his power was to summon a Toyota 86 Trueno that would just drift out of nowhere and ram into people and then disappear.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was thinking, I was like, man, it would be really, really cool to make a rules light, like one-page game based around drift car racing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so that's a really interesting idea. And so I thought about I've done a couple of games, one-page games. I did the Skeleton War game. They've been, and Lovecraftian Narrator, which are both available on the RPPR Patreon, and Lovecraftian Narrator put up on itch.io. And yeah, it seems like a fun thing to do. It was in my case, but so I just thought we could talk about help you brainstorm some ideas for that. But first, I think we should sort of what is a one-page game and what makes a good one? Those are, two separate questions. So, Birk, how would you define as a one-page game? Are you going to be very literalist about it has to be exactly one page?
No, I accept the zine interpretation of a game. I think a one-page game is a game that conveys all of its mechanics and theme in as concise a structure as possible, which is difficult to define, but typically one-ish page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Baz, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think what makes a one-page or, brochure style game is generally what I look for in that is a system that completely eschews the crunch of any typical RPG. That's specifically what I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you could incorporate crunch into a one-pager, but I'm really not wanting that. It's not why I'm coming for that particular type of game.
Crunch in terms of really complex game mechanics to simulate something or to get very precise and finesse, game design challenges, something, what's a crunchy system? Like the critical hit system in Rollmaster. That's very crunchy because it's look at multiple table, determine where you strike, if you hit, where you hit, and how much damage you do versus the armor, and then look at a critical hit table to determine what the exact effect is, which can not only be quantitative numbers, but also qualitative, like sever a limb or break a bone or, whatever. And that's a crunchy system, and that system alone could not be put on one page. I think one thing about one-page games is also that they are very tightly focused on a particular theme. Now, this theme varies wildly, although the trend is to be more absurd or humorous or satirical. But that's not a given. There are serious, quote unquote, one-page games like Cthulhu Dark, which is ostensibly a serious horror role-playing game. And I've been told that you can't run a serious horror game in Cthulhu Dark.
Sure, someone has.
The person who wrote the game told me, he commented on our actual plays. It's like, oh, I can run a serious game. It's like, all right, if we ever.
There you go.
But I think that it's tightly thematically focused. So if you were to, this is very much on the what you would call the storytelling game side of RPGs versus the traditional game, like Rollmaster's traditional game. Sort of the more in the war gaming roots, and storytelling game is more like you're using game mechanics to tell as a way to tell a story in a collaborative, non-linear way, or well, not even necessarily non-linear, but like in a collaborative sort of way.
No, I think that's right. Which is largely the second point I was going to add is that they have to be focused too, because there are definitely games in researching, poking around for this episode that don't match that criteria, that want so bad to just like condensed D&D, and it's just gibberish. It's just a page full of unplayable nonsense.
Yeah, or just like it's D&D, but like with way more ambiguities. Yeah. 6 point. Oh God, yeah, that. Yeah, I think. Yeah. So that's sort of a good segue into what makes a good or a bad, and by inverse, what makes a bad one-page game. And I think a bad one is one that tries to get away with stretching what it means to be a one-page game. Like a one-page game is very short in terms of the number of words you should have on there. If you're having to do these graphic design tricks to get more words on your page, you're just not. You're defeating the purpose of this, which is to be concise. 6-page font, 6-point font is like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, why are you doing this? Like
some weird column layout and stuff. Just stop.
Yeah, just write a normal size, like just write a rules light game. Like there's a difference between one-page game and rules light games.
Sure.
Like Dread, like we had a discussion of this on the RPPR Facebook group, and somebody's like, what about Dread? It's like, and somebody posted a photo of Dread, which is a book with a spine. Like it's like you can't even use staple. It's not even zine. It's like there's like a whole spine in there. Like so.
Wow.
Yeah, that's definitely not a one-page game. If it's a book.
If your game requires an index, it's not a one-page game. It literally it can't be.
All right.
Yeah.
Does it need
that rule?
Yeah, I mean because. What section is an index of the page? You mean you're using up your word count if you put an index on one page?
Mm-hmm. Just also the space on the page. Like a lot of these one-page games also have a very intense and making the connection about the zine element. Birk, I think, is a really good point because like there's a lot of like graphic design is really important in a lot of one-page games. So yeah, I think that's an element of a bad one-page game is that it's trying to rules lawyer its way out of it's a one-page game technically, but it would be better if it was like a 12-page zine, or something like that. But yeah, so what makes a good one-page game then? So I think one of them is brevity. Like it actually understands what it means to be a one-page game, and it's concise and gets to the point and doesn't waste any words. You can read it in a few minutes. And understand the game, and that's the point. Is that it's quickly absorbed. So that's my first point. What else makes a good one-page game?
I think something that encourages the players to do things, and what I mean by that is, it's very, I don't know, like Cthulhu Dark, one of its greatest strengths is it encourages everyone to engage at all, like pretty much at once. Because just because you're making an action doesn't mean everyone else gets a say in whatever you're doing, and I like that about it. Because I find that to be one of the things about one-page games is that you have to have substance in such a small thing. You can lose things like like player interaction and stuff.
Yeah, I can think of an example. Honey Heist is of course a game we've played on RPPR. I think it was a B-side or I don't remember where it wound up, but we did play it. And in Honey Heist, you play a bear is trying to steal honey from a honey convention, and you have two stats, bear and crime, and it encourages you to alter. You can't just max out one. You can't just do crime or do bear things, because if you do too much in one attribute, all your points will go into that attribute, and then if they go all into one attribute, you actually lose. You either go full bear or you go full criminal, And so you have to keep that in mind and try different things, and be aware of sort of the meta fiction of the verse. So I think Honey Heist is a good example of that. But yeah, Birk, any other sort of elements?
Other than I don't want to have to think about it to learn it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the big thing you kind of covered.
Mm-hmm.
I do think being visually catchy does help a lot, and well laid out, and having good graphic design aesthetic. So one-page RPG, the first one I saw that I really like was Lasers and Feelings, which is like pulpy, anywhere from like pulpy sci-fi up to more serious-ish. But it's just beautiful to look at too. It's John Harper, right? And like the color scheme is great. Like the little sketches of the ship is nice. It's all just laid out very cleanly. That sort of familiarity makes me feel like you cared about the rest of the game too.
Yeah. Presentation, definitely matters a lot, because Cthulhu Dark also has a really good one where you print it out on, like, it's a double-sided piece of paper, then you fold it and it becomes like a brochure. And that is pretty much all you need. But like, because of the way it's folded up as a brochure, it like presents in this panel, this, third of a page, gives you this rule so you can easily go back. So it's like organized well. So yeah, I think a good presentation matters a lot, because again, graphic design, when you have so little information, you need to, but it still needs to be precisely sort of presented. There's a really good one-page game that's very relevant to us, actually, Birk, which is, what's a Vaporwave?
What is a Vaporwave, Russ?
Yeah, it's a 2-player role-playing game about explaining Vaporwave to your grandpa. So yeah, what's a Vaporwave, which is I got because it's on the itch.io racial justice bundle from last year. Okay. So if you back that, if you supported that bundle, it's just search for Vaporwave. I think it's not even the only Vaporwave game in there, but it's one of two, I think. But anyway,
is that what you did? Did you just search Vaporwave? In that
no, actually, multiple people had told me about this game ahead of time. Because like, hey, Ross, look, there's the Vaporwave game. And I was like, okay. And so when the itch bundle came out, other people told me that it was part of it. And so I was like, okay. Like, once you get known for something, then people will tell you as soon as they see that thing. And yeah, I went into it. So, but yeah, it's got a very aesthetic presentation. It's a very quick read, and there's actually another thing on the racial justice bundle, a Vaporwave wallpaper pack. But anyways, so let's just use this as one example. Basically, it's a played via text messages, Vaporwave understanding unnecessary. So it's a 2-player game. One person plays Grandpa, one person plays Casey, who is the grandchild, and Casey kind of understands Vaporwave, and so then the game explains like the basic rules, but that's the premise. So I think that's the premise. I think is actually an important part of the one-page game, of making a good one-page game, which means it has a really good elevator pitch or tagline, which is, Honey Heist. Your bear's stealing honey. Your bear criminals. What's a Vaporwave? You try to explain Vaporwave to your grandpa. Instantly, like, it's a good one-page game. You instantly understand. Like, it's like, oh, okay, that sounds fun. So I think that's sort of like, if you're wanting like Initial D, it's a drift racing RPG. Well, that's the hook. That's all I need. So again, going back to the example you're talking about, Burke, about the 6-page D&D, 6-point font D&D knockoff. Like, what's the point? Like, why? I could just play D&D if I want to play D&D, or I could play Dungeon World or Tiny Dungeon. Actually, Tiny Dungeon is better than Dungeon World, but yeah, there's just why. But like, really, other great games, or at least one-page games, have like a really good hook, because that's like half the game is the hook. Like, oh, let's this novel concept. I think, and then I think the final element would be an sort of novel game mechanic, because with one page you can't like replicate a traditional RPG in terms of making characters, having stats, and skills or abilities, and leveling up or gaining experience, and having campaigns or stuff like that. You have to cut to the chase really quickly. Like, what's a vaporwave is just text role playing. It's just a way. It's just sort of like a prompt to do a text role playing thing. And Honey Heist, you have 2 stats, crime and bear, as we mentioned, and that's it. And then like what type of bear you are, and then you go.
What else do you need, really?
Exactly. And then there's like a whole thing of like Honey Heist knockoffs that use that structure but reskin it. Like I played on another podcast not too long ago, The Witcher, where you have 2 stats. The Witcher, the is a stat, and then Witcher is your other stat.
Okay.
No, wait, no, it's Witcher. No, it's not that. That's The Great Gatsby. The Great Gatsby, you have the, great, and Gatsby as your stats. But The Witcher, you have and fuck as your 2 stats.
Nice.
I like that.
Yeah, so things that make you go you roll Things that make you go fuck, roll fuck.
Okay. They're playing on lasers and feelings a little bit of like.
Yeah.
You're too cool.
And yeah, so I think that sort of thing. So now that we have this, are there any other one-page games you want to talk about at this point?
I found. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead. I had nothing to say.
Oh, along with Burke's talk about aesthetic, layout. I found something. Let me post it real quick in chat so you can see it. We're not gonna name. I don't want to shout these people out for. I don't know. Actually, I give them credit just for putting this amount of effort into it. But this is a layout of a game I found called Hardboiled, and it's something.
Yeah, I mean,
what I see though, what I've noticed when I was reading through this is there's some very heavy rules. This feels crunchy in a one page. Like there's choices. There's like what 6 choices, and there's this little GM section for like 2d6, 3d6. It's like if you start like you're getting into dice pools at that point.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of problematic. This is what would be my example of maybe not a good one.
I mean, it's halfway there, I think. Like it's hard boiled, but I mean, I would say it's not quite there because like the basic premise is a pun. Like it's
right.
Hard boiled eggs who are playing hard boiled detectives. And yeah.
Kirk movie.
So I think, it's not as bad as the rewriting D&D in 6-point font and cramming on a screen, but like
it almost feels like Dirtier World's trying to be condensed into one page.
Yeah. So yeah, this is kind of there, but like this is the kind of mistake that you want to avoid. You want something that reads more cleanly and has like, I think the best one-page games have really like novel mechanics, not necessarily the best, but like memorable mechanics that you'll like enjoy. So like Honey Heist again, like your stats are in flux, they're going back and forth like a seesaw. Like you get too much in one, so you have to try and maintain this balance if you don't want your bear to go full bear or go full criminal and betray the group. Like a good example is one of the older ones, which is Everyone is John. Now Everyone is John is also problematic because it's sort of a cartoonish / cinematic depiction of of someone having multiple personality disorder, which is not really a thing, or like is like I don't know. But in every
portrayal is not great.
Yeah, it's not great. But the premise is that everyone is sharing the same body and just taking turns controlling that body. And I mean, that could be rewritten to be like, a bunch of demons possess the same person and they're all fighting for control or they're all doing wacky things. But Everyone is John has, which you can fit on a single web page, is pretty like You just need a d6 and then some sort of markers, and you just roll back and forth. So it's you can fit it on one image, one page. But it's also kind of, actually, now that I look at it, here's an example of everyone is John, and it's kind of also a little too dense, almost. So this is one of the older ones. Yeah. So going back to Baz, have you thought anything about your drift racing one-page game?
I have. I've got kind of a working idea of how I want to do the, I don't know, the conflict resolution mechanic. So it's kind of hard to, if you have a table of people, like, okay, everyone's drift racing at the same time. Well, if you've watched Initial D, that's not usually how it works. It's usually two people racing. But what I thought would be really cool is the way it's kind of set up is the party is set up as a race team. So everyone takes a turn. When it's your turn, it's your race, and it comes up. And so I was thinking of having a system where each person does their series of races, and if they accumulate, if they get more wins than the opposing side gets, then you win the session, I guess.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, so I like the idea of the players are a team working to a common goal instead of everyone being a racer. But I think, like, the best sort of games are sort of about, like, well, I mean, it seems like you're trying to think about, like, what is the goal of the game in terms of, like, its focus. So it could be, so, like, in Initial D, like, what is sort of, like, the emotional story behind the racing? Like, why do we care about these racing?
The drive is to be the best, that's
to be the best.
To be the best, and to just to win. I mean, that's their key motivation for every character in that fucking show. I want to be the best racer.
Well, that's good. I like that, because that for a one-page game, you got to be the best. It's also the most anime thing, like
right.
You got to be the best. You got to be number one. So it's a game about winning races. That's the key there. So now there's a couple of ways you could do that. If you can come up, have you thought about, like, the exact game mechanics yet?
Yeah, it's going to be a dice, like a single dice roll, and I think there's going to be kind of a setup to where you have, who's on attack and who's, currently in the lead. And then other players, since they're in your corner, kind of with the Cthulhu Dark setup, they can either assist or hinder you. And along with that idea of wanting to be the best, some people in your team may not actually want you to win a race.
Okay.
And so there can be, like, give and take mechanics to where you can be like, you know what, fuck you, actually.
Okay. It's an interesting set of tension. So the real trick is sort of to create a game system that rewards helping sometimes as well as hurting sometimes. So
right, because you also want to be the best.
Yeah.
And so I want there to that's going to be where the role play mechanic comes in, because you're doing well in that race, but your friend didn't have your back for that race, so you weren't in your element or whatever. And so they get a point, or they get some sort of boost because you lost, and then that would create a conflict mechanic for role playing.
Okay. Birk, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah. I guess then you have to decide, like, what is the tone of the game, because I think once you have in, like, a low stakes rules light situation, players being able to screw with each other, do you want to get into, like, Cthulhu Dark type situations where it just becomes like a meme game of trying to outdo each other?
Well, to an extent, yeah, that would be kind of because one of the other key features of Initial D especially is that it's like super hormone fueled, like young, like late teens, early 20-year-olds. And so the idea of, like, just dicking over each other and, like, being arrogant and trying to, like, screw each other over could be really fun, I think.
So one idea that comes to mind for me is that I like this tension of, like, you're helping you want the players to have a reason to want to help their players. But I mean, the reason why they don't want to help them, they want to sabotage them, is obvious, so they can be number one. But so maybe there's a meta currency, you know, like a fate point or willpower or something like that racers get.
Yep. It's called a drive point.
Drive point. Okay, so the only way to get a drive point is to help another player. So like as a crew member. So like every time a player fails a roll, then another player is like, well, I assist him. And then you get a drive point, and then you roll, and if you roll well, they're assisted and they get through. So the players but drive points are also the only thing that let you re-roll or do something that helps you, you know, win a race. So players have two options. One, do I want to build up a lot of drive points so I can like do really well on my own race? But then of course my friends are going to do a lot better in the race than they would have otherwise because I fucking helped them so much. Or do I sabotage them? There's no penalty for sabotaging, but I don't get those drive points, in which case I have to hope I roll really well on my race.
Right.
Does that sound, how does that sound?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay.
Honestly, I like that.
Okay. So that's sort of the core of the game mechanically, and then you can just kind of fill it in. So so that's sort of like the secret of writing one-page games, coming with a good idea and then just coming up with a simple sort of game design mechanic to it. One thing, now, of course, since we talk about presentation, and most one-page games are going to be like free. They're going to be uploaded to itch or just uploaded to whatever, and just, you know, anybody can download them. So you don't worry so much about like, you know, using, like, have you thought anything about like how you would, if you were to write this out and put this out as a PDF, Baz, like how would you go about that? Would you hand write it and scan it in, like Hardboiled did, or
I would contact someone who knows how to do layouts.
Okay,
because I am terrible.
Answer.
Yeah,
it would be dog shit if I tried to do it. So I would find someone who at least has some information or some skill at that. Because honestly, I have no idea.
Okay. Yeah, that's another thing is like graphic design is a separate skill from writing, and like what's a Vaporwave Grandpa is very aesthetic and uses probably just some clip art and spheres, but like it looks very cool.
Looks good.
Yep. But I mean, relatively simple ones like Honey Heist is a 2-page column thing, and but you still have to know how to do that kind of stuff. So it's a fun and rewarding thing to do, but it's a bit of a challenge. But like, I think maybe if your first draft Baz, you could just write it out just as a document and get feedback on it. And then if that does well, like play test it once or twice, and then we can worry about laying it out. So
I wholly intend to inflict this upon you guys.
I look forward to it because how about this, Baz? If you once you write it, I will once we get the text finished or nailed down, then I will help you lay it out. I will.
Oh, I appreciate that, Russ.
Yeah,
I'll even give you a writing credit.
Aw, that's cool. Yep. Teamwork. You see, it's like we're a racing team. We're racing to be number one somehow.
We're gonna do it.
We're gonna do it. I forgot to ask Birk, did you have any ideas for one-page games?
No, not really. It's not really something I've been thinking about much. Not much of a game designer, honestly.
I mean, game design is sort of an acquired skill. Some would say curse. It's,
would they?
Yeah.
There's an idea for a game. Help Birk make a game, the one-page RPG game.
See,
no, I'm good, thank you.
See, that's the thing. That's the conflict resolution you have to figure out. Is he just says, "No, I'm good," and you have to find a way to get past that.
Yeah. See, Baz is getting into it. So, going through one of our shared loves, how about just as a hypothetical, let's hypothetically design a Neil Breen movie making.
And I'm out.
Yeah.
You hater.
Wow. So Birk, if you were tasked with designing a one-page Neil Breen themed game, we don't have to get into the details of it, but what when I say that, what comes to mind? So
everybody, all the players have come to Earth, and they're each immortal god alien AI.
Mm-hmm.
But they have competing ideologies about how to engage with that.
Mm-hmm.
So they go and make a 5-hour documentary.
A retrospective.
About a retrospective, one might even say. I don't know. So you got to lean into like what are our common Breen elements. So first of all, do you want to go meta and be like, you're a crew trying to make a ridiculous vanity project for a person that has no right to write, direct, edit. Well, not no right. Sounds rude, but you could use a little.
That's no business
in their cinema production.
Mm-hmm.
So you could do it as like a bad movie, like make a bad movie RPG.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or just lean into all the weird shit that's in Breen universes, which is 90% just him being the all-wise savior of mankind because only he realizes that lying is bad. Or like some other ridiculously simple moral lesson of like, don't screw over other people.
Mm-hmm. So I like that. I think just as a premise, I would do you are the friends of Neil Breen, and you're helping him make his newest movie, and so the game would be like one player would start with a Neil Breen element that translates to a location, an actor, a prop, some sort of production problem that has to be solved, and then poses like a challenge of either how do you have no money and little talent, how do you secure this production resource for the movie? And
it's incredibly optimistic.
Yeah, it's incredibly optimistic. Well, that's yeah. Well, that's the thing is like, well, Neil Breen wants to shoot in a casino, for example, this time. And then like, well, the casino is obviously has no reason to let him in there because he has no money to pay them. It'd be a huge pain in the ass.
But they got a green screen and some casino stock footage.
Yeah. So that's the thing is like coming up with like, how would you substitute that? Or how would you convince Breen to use something else? Like, so it's just sort of an improv exercise where like you're given a Neil Breen sort of prompt and then like have to like improvise, adapt it to like what another player suggests. So, yeah, just kind of like a fun little thing.
Yeah, I definitely like the whichever way you go, the meta angle of helping Neil Breen make a movie because, man, after watching that retrospective about how he makes movies, it's so much more fascinating.
Yeah.
It's weirder.
Yeah, I still need to finish that. I've only watched the first 3 hours of it. So
a nice relaxing.
Yeah, nice relaxing 3 hours. Jesus. So yeah, that's the thing about one page games too, is also that they shouldn't overstay their welcome. Like I don't think any one page game should last more.
Neil Breen movie.
Yeah, like a Neil Breen movie. Yeah. Like a couple hours for the longest one, like even Honey Heist was like 2 hours. Or at least our playthrough of it. Like a game that is up to 2 hours in length is fine. Something from 30 minutes to 2 hours. So you don't want to design something that would take too long to resolve. Because it's one page. It's a novel. It's an exercise in novelty, and novelty is fun. It's a good, sort of something to like change the pace. And but yeah, they're literally not deep because they can't be because they're one fucking page.
For sure. And I think that goes back to something I almost meant to say earlier, is that especially with like conflict driven games like Cthulhu Dark or this Initial D game, one of the big ways in which I generally play one page RPGs is like icebreakers at cons.
Oh yeah.
Like quick games. So you definitely want it to be short so that ice ain't breaking. Yeah, you're not stuck at that table for too long.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that is also a really good point. Also, yeah, I mean, they're great for like conventions and things because they are like one page. They're easy to carry around. They're easy to explain. They're easy to run. and play. Because
and very easy to walk away from if things are not going well.
Yeah, they're just low stakes all around.
So Baz, you just posted one called Party Monster or Monster Party.
Party Monster Party. This is an example of a layout that that's a layout.
Yeah. It's got a lot of information in it, but it's easy to read because there's a lot of tables. And the weekend is here, and tonight is the big costume party at Silver and Gold, a club in the bad part of town that lets anyone in. The only problem is you've heard that monsters are planning to ruin the night.
Shit.
Yeah. I hate it when that happens.
This is by a creator by the name of Earthsea Dice. Apparently they've made quite a number of RPGs.
Nice.
Yeah, so I was looking at things, I saw that, and I was like, hey, that's got some content on it. And I started reading it, and I was like, shit, that actually seems kind of fucking cool.
Yeah. I think this has a lot of fun elements. Like there's this sort of like gray sort of background with the logo, but also there's some there's some artworks, a couple of monster silhouette at the bottom, a couple other things, but also some like fun random tables. Like random tables are just fun, especially in what kind of monsters here, what's their agenda, what's your party goal, horny teenager. So. Yeah, this is a fun little thing. Of course, I'll have a link in the show notes to Monster Party, Party Monster, Party Monster, Monster Party, and yeah. So this is something that's actually not too. If you like, this is something even I could lay out. Like I could with my limited graphic design skills. So if you want to do something like this for your initial D thing, this is definitely something that is achievable. But yeah, so if you. For those of you who are listeners, hopefully we've explained a little bit more about these one-page games if you haven't heard about them. If you have questions about one-page games, if you have one-page games that you've written and you want us to take a look at, please comment in the show notes or on our Facebook page, Facebook group, or join the RPPR Patreon and talk about it on our Discord. Or hit me up on Twitter. I'm at Ross Payton on Twitter. Birk is at Birk Mankirk on Twitter. Yep. And Baz, are you Baz Wolfington or Future Wolfington on Twitter?
At Baz Wolfington.
At Baz Wolfington. So be sure to tell Baz if you like the idea and encourage him to be number one in racing. But sorry, Burke.
It's at Birk McBirkinson.
Oh, sorry.
No worries.
I'll put links in the show notes. Of course. So when we come back, of course, we will have some shout outs. And we're back. I'm not sure what I'll put in. Maybe some Vaporwave.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Keep that shit out of here. This is RPPR, God damn it.
Yeah. We have some shout outs for y'all. So I'll go first with a video game that I bought on Steam not too long ago and beat because it was fun, although they're going to add more content to it. It is called Teardown, and it is a interesting physics destruction game. It's sort of a voxel system, but like almost anything in the game can be destroyed, and you play like a contractor who gets hired by various people to steal shit for them. And the idea is this is not a stealth game. There's nobody there. But once you steal certain objects, an alarm will go off so you have 60 seconds in most levels to get the thing and then get to the exit. And so the challenge is actually creating a path. And how do you create a path? Well, you have hammers and explosives and various tools of destruction. There's also vehicles in the game, and there's usually a lot of construction vehicles strewn about these places because they're like industrial sites. And so you're just knocking holes in walls, blowing shit up, setting things on fire, using a blowtorch to cut open, metal fences, all kinds of shit like that to just speed run through a level, and you have 60 seconds to get through. So it's quite fun to blow shit up and run around. Yeah, it's like what real world burglars do most of the time. They're not like picking locks; they're just knocking doors down. Like that's how it works in reality. So it's like, oh yeah, I like that. So yeah, that's my first shout out. Burke.
Hey, I am going to shout out a YouTube station who it's going to be linked below. So check it out there. But I'm pretty sure it's pronounced Tardi Obscurus, Tardi Obscurus, and they produce like 45-minute to an hour-long playlist of. Right now, they're Japanese focused. They might move out to other countries, but it's music playlists that are largely it covers all genres. There's a lot of post-rock shoegaze, which is what I really like. There's like math rock, rap, piano, jazz, beats, R&B, but they're sort of famous because they have like ridiculous titles for their videos. So they'll just be like, Japanese shoegaze when you're sitting outside in the cherry blossoms on a summer day, transcending into God. Like it's just these ridiculous, like if Chuck Tingle wrote video titles.
Yeah. I think my favorite is Japanese rap to slay your enemies with a katana too. So
yeah. But they're great mixes. The person who runs it is taking a break right now for school, but they're pretty responsive to user polls for what genres are next and stuff. So it's a cool up and coming channel.
Baz.
Mine is also a YouTube channel. One of mine is Unemployed Wine Guy. It's a relatively new YouTuber. He's only around 18,000 subscribers, just started. Just a quick run through the about section is Prescott Van Meyer, sommelier on a budget. From legendary drinks to the newest sparkling wine thingies, I'm ready to try it all. What should I review next?
Nice.
So, just the high points in this one are definitely the Malort episode, the Four Loko episode, and the Everclear episode.
Yeah.
They're great.
Nice. Yeah, I'll have to check into that. I think I'm pretty sure I watched the Malort episode, but yeah, I've not been much of a wine guy, I need to expand my palate in other.
Well, that's good because nothing that he drinks could be considered wine.
Okay, yeah. Well, also that's your. We love and respect our pets, including.
Lovecraft. I'm sorry. Yeah,
he's angry boy in the background.
He's pissed. He knows it's dinner time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm leaving that in. But
thank you.
My next shout out is for another video game called Monster Train. This is another deck building game like Slay the Spire. But it's also got tower defense elements because you have like you're in a train in hell and you have monsters defending your train. And other monsters are coming in to try and blow up your train, and they have to get through 3 levels of your guys before they can get to the train and blow it up. And yeah, it's on Xbox Game Pass right now. That's how I'm playing it, but it's also on Steam. And it's got the graphics I don't know. I don't like the art direction because it's very much mobile game, like Clash of Clans, kind of like generic kind of look for it. But like the gameplay is just build decks, and there's a lot of interesting deck types, so and it's very easy to pick up. I tried it out. It's like, oh god, it's going to be another whole thing I have to learn, and then I got it in like 5 minutes. Like it's like, oh okay, I do this and this and this. Okay, yeah, that's simple. So yeah, it's if you like deck building roguelikes, well, not quite a roguelike, but there's like you unlock different card types, and there are some randomized elements between runs. But like a successful run only takes you 30 to 50 minutes on average, if you're having to read the cards like I do, because you don't like once you learn all the card deck types, it gets a lot faster. But yeah, it's fun, and if you have Game Pass, it's just try it out because you can just that's what Game Pass is about.
I also recommend that game.
Yep. Burke, what's your next shout out?
So we're moving to a movie I watched recently, which is Pawn Sacrifice, a 2014 film about roughly the first half of Bobby Fischer's life leading up to his 1972 World Chess Championship against Spassky, which he won, which was politically a really big and interesting event because it was kind of this the Russians had really, for a variety of reasons, dominated the chess circuit, and it became this peak of the Cold War tension. Like, will an American finally beat the Russian? Stars Tobey Maguire as Bobby Fischer, which also is one of the reasons I watched it, because I don't really have much of a concept of Tobey Maguire outside of Spider-Man.
That's a good point, actually.
And he was great in it. And I appreciate also that the movie didn't shy away from what an absolute piece of shit and nightmare Fisher was as a human being. It didn't get too much into like over worship of like, oh, maybe he's a little abrasive, but he's a genius. It's like, no, he was mythic. Like just monster.
Yep. Nice. I had not heard of that film, but now I do want to see it myself. So yeah. Bass?
Another YouTube channel, Tasting History with Max Miller. This guy is an absolute just treat to watch. I love this guy. He goes through historical recipes, teaches you how to make them, and then goes through a pretty in-depth within the span of the 15-minute video, in-depth description of the history and the culture behind the food and the various things about it. I learned so much about food that I didn't know.
Oh yeah.
Like, you know what a medieval trencher is? They made bread plates basically back in like medieval time, like medieval Europe. They didn't even eat the bread; they just used it as a plate. It's called a trencher. That's cool as fuck to me.
Interesting.
But, yeah, it's a great channel, and there's always a little Pokemon to the left side, like Pokemon plushie, that his husband puts in the shot. So that's really become the really highlight of the videos, is seeing what Pokemon's going to show up.
So Panera Bread didn't come up with bread bowls on their own?
I know. What? Everything I know is a lie.
Is even the point.
Yeah. I'll have to take a look at that channel too.
Like charisma for days. This guy is charming as fuck to watch. I love him.
Nice. Like Birk, I have a film to recommend. It's called Goodbye Dragon Inn. It's a Taiwanese movie from 2003 or 2004. It's very good, but it's also kind of excruciating at times. So forward, because it's basically about the last screening of any movie at this movie theater that's about to close down. It's like last day of business, last screening, and they're showing this 1960s wuxia movie called The Dragon Inn, and there's almost no one in the theater, and the movie doesn't have, like, no one talks until like halfway into the movie. There's like 10 lines of dialogue in the entire film, and it's almost all of these static shots that last like 30 seconds to there's like one shot that's like at least 2 minutes long, and it's like a woman cleaning the theater after everyone leaves, but it's, I don't know, I find it oddly fascinating and compelling too, because it's beautiful shots of this like rundown theater. It's raining outside. It's very atmospheric. And these characters, there's like the people who are in the movie, the two main actors, actually show up for this last screening. And then there's the woman who is running the theater, or, and she is, trying to, you're like wondering what she's doing. She's walking around doing various chores, but she's then there is a gay man who is cruising, trying to find a connection, and yeah, it's just oddly interesting to watch, but it's, yeah, again, just, it's a very still and very slow movie, even though it's 90 minutes long. So yeah, it's at times it's like, oh god, this is boring, but by the end it's like, oh, okay, all right, so Baz, you have one more shout out, right?
I do. A Japanese DJ by the name of Cola Splash. Just, oh, hey, Lovecraft. Okay, yeah, just super upbeat. Kind of a cross between just sort of dubstep at times, sort of just standard EDM. Then there's like 8-bit kind of glitch stuff thrown in too. I don't know. It's very all over the place, but it's very positive.
All right. I just have one more, which is a YouTube video called Blobber Team Bites: How the Layers of Fear developers copy pasted their way to notoriety. This is basically Layers of Fear is a horror video game, and when I played it, I liked it, but I didn't realize this video sort of breaks down that it's from a YouTube channel called Bob Vids, and that Layers of Fear just copy pasted a lot of stuff very specifically from other sources, but very specifically the PT demo of Silent Hills that was on the PlayStation 4 briefly and then disappeared. So I, of course, I didn't get a chance to play that demo. And so I didn't realize how much they were ripping that off, like ideas. And so it's like, oh, this game I thought was original was just ripping off a source I wasn't familiar with. But like the cover art of that game is a painting of a dude whose face is melting, but they show that they copy pasted that from a still frame of Indiana Jones, and of the guy's face is melting when he sees the Ark of the Covenant. Like you know the one I'm talking about. And it's like, oh, I didn't realize that they just photoshopped that onto another. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And this the team that did this Blobber Team is coming up with a new game called The Medium, and I'm going to be very suspicious of that game now because the devs seem to have a history of ripping off other games and other things. So yeah. But yeah, thank you all so much for listening to this episode. Thank you all supporting us on the RPPR Patreon. Please let us know what you think about One Page Games in the comments or on our Discord or on Twitter. I mentioned, of course, Birk and Baz are both on Twitter as well. You could talk to them. Thanks for listening. We'll try and get out more episodes. I'll try and come up with more ideas as soon as I could think of them. Hopefully, Caleb is working on a lot of stuff this year, so we're certainly going to be doing some game designer workshop episodes about Phase Anatomy and Slingstone this year. I don't know exactly when, but I'll talk to him about that. And of course, also Night Clerk Zine. So yeah, we got a lot of cool stuff coming up this year. A lot of cool games. We have a Red Markets campaign in the works that we're going to be posting on RPPR Actual Play. And of course, Blades in the Dark campaign is going to be going on for quite some time. Yep. Because we did finish that up, but we have quite a few episodes in the can. And that's it. Burke, do you have anything else you want to add?
No, nightclerkradio.com. Check it out.
Yep. All right. This has been RPPR episode 182. We'll talk to you all later. Bye.